SoCal Cineforum, which is fantastic. So he is a local boy, but went to LA, worked as a studio executive producer. So thrilled to have you here. So Chris Holmes, and I'm going to turn it over to him to run the panel.
Thank you, Tanya. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great time here at the festival. We're honored to be here. My name is Chris Holmes, and as Tanya said, I'm a producer and a creative executive, most recently at the Walt Disney Company, overseeing creative services for Disney Television Studios. I also am the founder of the SoCal Cineforum, which is focused on bridging the local creative community to the entertainment industry. And we're also partnering closely with UCSD, the alumni in the cinema departments there. We actually are lucky to have some of the faculty here today. We're doing an event next weekend too, similar to this. The topic is not AI, but if you're interested in that, come see me after the panel, and you can meet some of the folks from UCSD as well. So, you know, without further ado, I was kind of thinking about how I'm going to open this, and I think first what I'll do is I'll introduce the panel, and I did a little experiment with ChatGPT. So, but first let me introduce all of my friends here. So I'm very lucky to have everybody here. Thank you, all of you, for joining me. I have to be honest, right now it's very challenging to get anybody to talk about AI in a public setting. So we're really lucky that these folks have offered to do that. They all work for their own companies, and so they do have a very clear point of view on artificial intelligence, so we're thrilled to have them. So first I'd like to introduce Sarah. It's Mazes, right? That is correct, thank you. She's a kids and family entertainment veteran and president of Cheeky Squirrel Productions, a media company specializing in the development and production of animated and live-action series, cross-platform content, integrated in AI-enabled entertainment technologies, and the innovation and extension of intellectual properties and brand franchises. Nikola Todorovic, right, specializes in visual effects. In 2016, Nikola founded Wonder Dynamics alongside actor-producer Ty Sheridan from Ready Player One, X-Men, and so forth. They are focused on the future of filmmaking. Wonder Dynamics' mission is to revolutionize the production and post-production process by leveraging state-of-the-art AI. And Jonathan Keltz, thank you for joining us. He is a veteran actor and producer with 2 decades of experience in the industry. You may recognize him from Entourage, Rain, and Amazon show The Wilderness. He's developed and produced projects such as the independent film Darn Unacquainted and limited series 9 films about technology and effects. Now he is the production and development president at Bingeable Studios, an independent studio that offers a revolutionary production and distribution partnership to filmmakers. So thank you very much. Give them a warm welcome for coming all the way down here. Okay, so I thought I should ask ChatGPT what it is. So I did. And have you done this yet? Have you gone in? And it's kind of creepy, the very last sentence that I'm sure it spits out the same thing. It says, artificial intelligence, or AI, refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. These includes things like visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, and language translation. AI systems are designed to analyze data, learn from it, and make informed decisions or predictions. It's a fascinating field that holds a lot of promise for the future. How creepy is that? Oh my God. Anyway, so let's get into it. Let's get right into the hot zone. What I want to do is, I first want to talk, because there's strikes going on. One ended, thank goodness. There's still another one going on with SAG-AFTRA. And one of the topics that they are negotiating about is AI. I would like to just go through these 5 bullet points and to get a reaction from all of you. So these points are things that were agreed to by the AMPTP and the WGA. It was ratified just a few weeks ago. So the first is AI cannot write or rewrite literary material. It cannot be considered source material. Writers can choose to use AI if a studio approves its use, but writers cannot be required to do so. And studios cannot use AI to train on writers' work without their consent. And studios must disclose if any materials they hand over to a writer were generated by AI. So it's a pretty significant victory. I'm sure there's a lot of things that were left on the table, but it's a start. What kind of precedent are these deal points setting for not just our industry, but for industry in general and for the world?
I can start. I think we started in AI about 2016. So, and for us, it was really important to stay cautious of the art. I was an artist, visual effects artist, turned supervisor. My co-founder is an actor. So I think it's like any other tool out there. It's how you use it, and you can definitely abuse it. So we were really conscious of building tools that accelerate the process, right? Not replace it. So I think when it comes to this deal, it's a really good deal. Because especially on the SAG side of things, if you look at replacing actors, we were fighting against that. We didn't want to go in deep fakes because I think it's really dangerous to end up in an industry where we have actors sitting at home and giving out licenses of their likeness, and there's 5 films in production. So I think it's a really good step forward. I think if we give control to artists and storytellers, that's the good side of it. And I think eventually there's been a lot of hype, and we've categorized entire AI in one category. But it's such a big field, right? You can use elements of AI that we've been using machine learning in films for 15 years, if not more. We just haven't heard of it. We've been telling people for about 4 years, get educated, this is coming. We see it more as going to help us make indie films with visual effects and CG. That's what we're focused on, because indie filmmaking is really hard. You can't really do much CG or visual effects with it. So that was our focus, but I think there's a lot of elements in it and a little bit overhype of what AI can do. It's a commercial right now, right? You see demos that work on 10 videos, but they don't work overall. You see ChatGPT.
It's a buzzword, right?
It's a buzzword. I don't think it can replace, a really good writer. It can write you a script, but it's going to be terrible, right?
So I can sell an article in the newspaper. It's scary.
True, that is scary, and I understand that. I think we should. Here's my philosophy. I think if we build this, we gotta build it alongside the artist and alongside the industry. I'm worried a little bit about, you have kids out of Silicon Valley that do not understand our industry at all, or they don't care about it. They see it more like, here's a TikTok tool, we're gonna make something that everybody can use, and then you're chasing the money. I think as long as we control it and build it inside of the industry, we're gonna protect ourselves as much as we can. And that's why we were so involved.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I would love to put a pin in the TikTok tool because I have such a, I'll have a lot to say about that.
Please do.
But I agree. I think that there is, I lived through the strike. My husband is a member of WGA. And in addition to that, I'm also a writer and an author. And I understand the concern, and I think that it is wise that they are getting ahead of potential problems. But I also think it's really pie in the sky, as much as I hate to say it, because it's really hard to police. I mean, right now when you're going into AI and you're using it to ideate or generate ideas, it's really easy to be like, I want something like David Sedaris. And then you put it in, and of course it's not David Sedaris, but I'm sure it's training on it. And then you realize, like, did I just steal something from David Sedaris? Like, I'm sorry if I did. I didn't. I swear I didn't use it anywhere or sell it anywhere or anything like that. But I think that it's really important to get ahead of things and to start laying framework. I think what can be really difficult whenever we see any kind of massive evolution is putting the reins on something that's already roaming free. And I think it was smart. And one thing I can say after 30 years in this industry is that, lived through a lot of different innovations, and I actually grew up on cell animation, not to age myself. But obviously, that's like the only thing in this room that like ages someone to say I grew up on cell animation. But at that time, when people were doing cell animation, and the artist's hands were on everything, and it was terrifying when CGI came along and they wanted to use that. And all of these tools are useful. They all have risks, they all have rewards. But the best thing I can say about the WGA thing is getting in early to set some groundwork, because it becomes easier to police if you have some rules in place. And I hope they can
too early and exactly the right moment where these ground rules need to sort of be put in place. And thankfully, there's also starting, we're trying to pass the no fakes law bill in Washington as well, and there's some things happening in the rapidly moving political scene as well, trying to find other protections. But this type of technological innovation has affected the automotive industry. I mean, there's self-checkout at grocery stores, and these types of things are going to keep happening. We know technology is going to adapt and adjust who is able to work, what they're able to do, and when it comes from an artistic perspective, we have the WGA labeling ChatGPT as a plagiarism. Okay. They're not wrong, and they're also not necessarily right. It's about how can we guide these tools, and when they're available already at this scale and for free to everybody, when you have ChatGPT surpassing 100 million active users faster than any internet platform, any internet tool ever before, that's incredible and incredibly scary as well. So I think when it comes to SAG and what's happening in this negotiation, I think the DGA set a good precedent in terms of establishing that these roles need to be filled by human beings, and then the WGA was able to build on that. And I think SAG's really trying to build on what the WGA has done as well. So I think we'll see where that negotiation goes. But I think that as these tools are developed and as they're expanded upon, the landscape's going to change. And as Nico was saying, it's got to be within control of the industry, within control of the artists. And hopefully the Teamsters are going to have a great position based on what's happening in these negotiations. And the further negotiations in house is going to affect other labor unions everywhere. So I think all eyes are really on the industry right now.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about machine learning as a tool. So Nikolai, I want to start with you. What I want to understand is, how did you take something that, clearly you've been using AI for a while in your product. I actually have used Nikolai's product, using it to finish one of my films right now. And it's extraordinary. It's also, like everything that you guys are saying, it's a double-edged sword. There's a gray area. There's a good side and there's a bad side. But how do you build a business around it when you know you've got so much friction and you're really trying to keep the light on and say, this is for artists?
Yeah, I think what we did is there was quite a bit of thought process. We had to resist going certain paths as well as we were building. We started about 2018 building our product.
Maybe tell them just briefly
I'll
what it
briefly
does.
mention what it is. So we built this solution. It's a web-based solution that essentially gets you to bring CG characters to life in your live action film. So traditionally you needed your motion capture suit, like you have in Avatar, etc. We use machine learning to about 25 models to analyze the footage, extract the performance, get the lighting info, color, all of that, and then get that in 3D space, and then animate, light, and compose that CG character. So driven by an actor.
We were just like drag and drop CG animation.
And this is
kind of mind.
But it's important to mention, there's a perception that AI can get you like one-click process to your final VFX shot. It's virtually impossible. So what we did, we did a big film before we launched the platform, and we hired artists that worked on big films like Avatar, Guardians of the Galaxy, etc. And we said, don't worry about AI, you just tell us what elements you need to get your final VFX shot. Because we didn't want to replace with that tool the entire pipeline, we wanted to accelerate the pipeline. So that really helped us, working with the artists together to understand, my philosophy is this: AI can get you about 60-70% there of that non-creative, objective work. When I was a VFX artist, there's so much repetitive work. Every studio you go to, you start from scratch, you're spending weeks on something you've done before, and there's so much that manual labor that a lot of artists don't like. So we said, let's get rid of that part, and let's get artists quicker to the creative process. And that's really why the industry responded well to us, and that's why we were really working hard to stay on that good side of AI to really accelerate the process. So in other words, all the artists that are using it now, we're getting people that could never afford motion capture system, who could never afford to make films like that, but we're also accelerating, as you say, two sides, right? One side is VFX artists have been traditionally overworked. There's been a lack of about 100,000 VFX artists last year, and they're working absolutely insane hours. So for us, it was more like kind of personal for me. I wanted to do that, but then I also wanted to do it because me and my co-founder were writing films, and every time we wrote a film, it was a sci-fi that would cost $100 million. And we said, there's no way we'll ever get funding for this. So I think this really came out of a frustration of this industry does have a big, gatekeeping to it, and you have to be really established director to come to make these movies you want. So if you ask me where I see, I'm very optimistic about where AI is going in that way, because I think at the end of the day, the purpose of it is democratization, and how do we get to these indie filmmakers to do what traditional studios? We're in infancy at it, but in the coming year, if we do focus in that direction, I think we can get there.
So, all three of these panelists are steeped in technology. It surrounds everything that they do. Sarah, you're no stranger to technology. It's part of pretty much everything that you've worked on the last 20 years. With your exec hat on, tell me what are the considerations you believe are being discussed inside the studios when it comes to this?
To add to what you guys were saying, it's a very nascent industry. And what's, in a lot of ways, the entertainment industry is a very big ship that turns very slowly. And it's always the creatives who are sort of on that forefront and are pushing and dragging the executives forward is what it always sort of feels like. I think that AI right now to a lot of people is something that feels like, oh, this is something we could do or we could potentially use. I think that small companies and companies that are really well funded are able to access a lot of technology and play around with it, and I think they're encouraging it. But right now I don't feel like anyone's in any danger at the moment. I feel like when I even talk about the fact of something I used, I went into Jasper to create, I was looking to try and create a special kind of document. People are like, what's that? What's that? And I'm actually shocked how few people are aware of how AI is impacting. But I think it's very different for people who are on the front lines of animation and who are in VFX, because this is what you do. But when you're on the creative side or an executive, you're not in those trenches and you're not looking for those tools that move you forward. And I think that in the next year we're going to start, I hope, because that would be great for my business, if people started understanding how they could be using it for their business. And I think the most important ways they could be using it for their business and the ways they will be using it are generative creative. So I think that with regard to as much as I hate to say this is part of what the WGA was going to say, but keeping costs down for a story room, being able for a writer's room, being able to, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm just saying that it creates a leanness and a streamlining of your production and your post-production and your pre-production stages for everything. So I think, in short, I'm not concerned about it at the moment. But the things where I am seeing it really be used is seeing it used lip sync, those redundancies, the repetitive animation. We can cut down the timeline from the time it takes to get a show done. If we can cut that down from 2 years from now to a year or even 6 months, I mean, how huge is that? Not to mention how that actually impacts our ability to be more facile with our storytelling and more immediate. And the other thing that I really love that you just said is the word democratization. And the idea that it opens up the field to so many other people. Not everybody, I can't draw well. I would love to be able to animate. I'm a very visual thinker. And it's really frustrating that I can't bring my own visions to life. I can say the words and I can work with someone. Of course, there are two sides to that as well. It's like everything is a two-sided coin. You flip it and then there's two more sides. But the idea of being able to at least share what my vision is with people who I'm working with when I'm just a creator or a writer or a producer, I think is super useful. I think it's almost like what Pinterest was able to do. It's like you create these Pinterest vision boards and you're able to show somebody what your vision is. And I think that this takes it a step further. I can actually create animation and show someone or pull a character and say, okay, I just want to animate this character quickly. And it allows my pitching to become that much more elevated. But I think that with regard to the repeatable stuff, that's where we're really going to see the biggest change.
So I hear in everything everyone's saying, and I want to hear what you have to say, Jonathan, about this idea of technology helping, making things easier so that you're not spinning your wheels doing the same thing. Now, I want to take a small pivot here and I want to talk about Bingeable, your company, because while AI is not at the center of it, what is at the center of it is this idea that AI is enabling, which is democratization. And people were talking about that with blockchain, but the spirit of that is what's running through your company. So, and you see this from all sides, from an acting side, a producer, a writer, and now as a business person, help us understand the idea of democratization and use your company as an example just to kind of help us understand the value of it.
Yeah, I mean, so the sort of ranging. I mean, again, I think democratization is key, and the greatest tool to democratizing film and entertainment thus far has been technology. Even just the progress from film cameras to digital cameras and everything that's happened there, that has opened it up to so many more people to be able to get into this industry. Now you have cameras and phones that are able to operate at professional ability as well. Especially when you look at the newest iPhone, the newest Samsung, and all these different things. So the greater technology evolves, the more people that will be able to have access. Because right now, the costs of production and marketing and everything, it's so inflated and it's so bloated. It's suffocating the industry in so many different ways, and it's keeping so many people out. So if there are tools like Wonder that are able to greatly reduce what the costs are for a project to be able to get to market and expand the vision of a filmmaker, I mean, it's no secret that Hollywood gets accused all the time of being a relationship-based industry and being a nepotism-based industry. It's like, well, the more we can put these tools in a web browser that somebody anywhere in the world can access and exponentially grow what it is that they're trying to make and expand their vision, the better. From Bingeable's perspective, so Bingeable was built based upon the idea that right now the financial modeling in the industry is completely and that it's the filmmakers, the independent financiers, the cast, and the crews that are bearing the majority of that burden. There's an overvaluing of the types that deliver and market content, and an undervaluing on the creators and the people who actually make it, right? There is, occasionally profit participation that's promised but rarely given, and when it is, there's opaque and exorbitant marketing and distribution costs that render it almost meaningless. Bingeable is at its heart, a global distribution and marketing platform. And what we also do is we provide $1 gross revenue participation for above-the-line filmmakers, all cast, and even below-the-line crew. And that's $1 and in perpetuity, right? So what we've done is we've inverted that model, and we've included in the platform amplification marketing tools. So you're empowering your cast, your crew, and your fans to go out and promote that project. Because while there's already a portion of the proceeds and the revenue that's going to the people that participated in the making of the film, whoever has generated that sale, because they're able to sell movie tickets, PVOD rentals, and more directly through their social media accounts, whoever generates that sale gets 20%. So it's an affiliate marketing model from the top down. So whether that's your actor, your star, who's got millions of followers, who's promoting it, and right now, everybody who's an actor is expected to promote and market and do social media, actively on behalf of the project, but there's no compensation for it. It's just this sort of invisible metric. We've created a way to be able to monetize that for those people, and also incentivize people who are audience members to get involved and to promote on behalf of their projects. The most powerful thing to get somebody to go and watch a movie, as we saw across this summer, is word of mouth. And if we can align everybody's interests and bring everybody into that fold, then there's something really special that can happen. And if that is allowing us to lower our traditional marketing costs, that then also lowers what the marketing spend would be and the risk capital that would be. If you've got stars who know there's going to be meaningful back-end participation, well, they're going to probably lower their upfront fees because they know once the cost of marketing and distribution of plus 25%, their share is going to double in perpetuity. perpetuity. So there's incentivization there to lower what the production costs are going to be.
You're harnessing technology, a lot of different technologies,
Yeah,
to democratize the process
totally.
and make something sustainable.
Yeah, and and again, this is a platform that's powered by AWS in terms of the content delivery, which is the same as Amazon, Netflix, and everybody else. But then the Web3 side of it is that we utilize blockchain accounting. So all of the accounting of all of the revenue that's generated from the project is all done on the blockchain. And so that means it's completely transparent and viewable by all stakeholders. So
You don't have to call the business affairs department residual.
yeah, exactly. And not only that, Visual doesn't even receive the revenue that comes in. It goes into an escrow account, and then that ledger
There you go. That's what
the ledger is authenticated, and then all the parties have distributed their funds, whether that's again the filmmaker, the cast, the casting director, the grip, a fan in Ohio, whoever it is, and that money's paid out every 30 days. Whereas with certain studio licensing fees or streamer licensing fees, those are paid out across 3 years. And all these different things. We're also bringing back windowing, which is something that the streamers eliminated.
How dare you?
I know, right? But Bingeable is designed to replace or augment that initial release window. So,
Well, so to pivot back to AI, one of the things that you're talking about is transparency.
yeah.
And so, Nicola, I want to ask you, and then Sarah, I want to hear
How
from
dare
you.
you.
When as you're talking about everything that you do, I'm sure you have to deflect a lot of questions about, well, aren't you just replacing visual effects artists? How are you being transparent about your process? I mean, clearly you're using machine learning. You're not using ChatGPT. You're using a very specific kind of technology component. What do you usually say to people when they're concerned?
Yeah, well, I think we are a bit different than a lot of other, people put us in the generative AI category, but technically we don't generate art out of thin air. We're accelerating the process, getting rid of the hardware, and then still getting you to the point where an artist is working on that shot, right? So that's the difference of what we did, and we did that on purpose. We could have done. My theory was generative AI is still too randomized, and the way we work in film, especially visual effects, you get something first pass of a shot. Director past 20 will give you notes that are so minor. We're not there yet with AI, and we can't do that in 2D space. I call this a lot of the generative models. They're still operating in 2D space, like text to video. You type something, you get a video. It still doesn't work how we are used to filming. So we purposely did it in a way like it's all about your shot is picking up information from it's only as good as how well you lit that shot, right? It's gonna pick up all your light color from your actor. So if your cinematographer is not great, the final result's not gonna be great. If the artist that's building that CG character is not great, that shot's not gonna look good. So we were very cautious of doing that. So I think that puts us a little bit safer with some of the conversations, but we had to do that way. I think for me personally, it meant a lot to do it. I honestly do think we're in a transition period. AI is a kind of word that people are using to scare people a lot these days. A lot of people don't understand it. And unfortunately, throughout these strikes, there are definitely points that you mentioned that are super, super important. But it was also a little bit of a distraction of the points of residuals and other things, which was frustrating for me because I knew, for instance, and I'm open about things. I don't try to deflect things, but please don't quote me outside the studio. But one thing that I think it was important to mention, the big deal about the actors was, not to scan them once and then put them as a background actors. We have technology, not us, but companies have technology. They can do that without needing to scan it, right? So this big media jumped on that one point. Yes, they jumped on that one point like the biggest thing. But that to me was a distraction because there's already technology. You don't have to be scanned. They've been putting extras, in visual effects for many years decades that don't exist, not real humans. That's why for us it was super important. We didn't go the deepfake route. We're still putting robots, aliens, and characters that don't exist, characters in fantasy and sci-fi. We stayed away from deepfakes, and it was hard. A lot of investors and people you talk to, they're like, well, can I put myself in this movie? We're like, yes, but we are not doing it for that reason because we don't want to do that. And my co-founder Ty always says like I don't want to put myself out of work. Yeah, that was important for us, so we stayed on it. I think it's transitional period that will pass. As you mentioned, it happened with digital cameras. DPs did not want to use digital cameras for so long. It happened with CG in the 90s. People were saying, you know, why would I make this when I can do it traditionally? But now we all love Pixar movies, right? So this transition of fear, it's different, so we have to fear it. It exists always, but then we start using it, and then we realize, oh, this is actually helping me. Why would I make a movie of 5 million that looks like 30? Because I'm using certain tools. And then we'll make more films, and then we'll, you know, it's not gonna be 5 years to get your film funded, right? Because you'll be able to make 5 minutes of a film using some AI tools, and then go out and find producers and funding because you can sell your vision better on that side. So I'm definitely a bit more optimistic on where this is going to take us.
And I think at the end of the day, we can't stop technological innovation. We have to find the right guardrails, and I think, you know, what you guys have talked about in terms of making sure that human supervision, that human involvement and element is included. But we also have to lean into the technology and find a way to evolve in the most responsible way. But it's not, we can't stop it. It's happening, and it's going to continue to happen. We'll continue to have this fear cycle with it, and then the adaptation, and all of that excitement, but we gotta go with the flow.
Can I say something really controversial?
Please.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if it's like jet lag wearing off or something like that, but
Should we stop recording?
so if you could just put a black bar over my face right now. Okay. Here's the thing. Artists have been building off of previous artists and evolving since cave paintings. This is the nature of art. It's the nature of evolution. It's the nature of technology. We see something. It inspires us to think bigger and inspires us to think what's next. And to live through, which is what we're doing right now, to live through when massive change is happening, you're having a sea change that impacts so many people. Of course, we're all going to get super protective. Everyone's going to be concerned about, oh my God, am I going to have a job and this and that? But the truth of the matter is, I just think as humans, as creatives, our job is to evolve. It would be so easy to just sit around and continue to make animation the way I made it for 30 years. But that's not where my audience is. And I just think that there are so many people who are scared. And I don't want to say that. It's just the thought of this is happening to me. This is happening to my job that makes us all scared. And I can say this, I'm married to a writer. I know what it feels like to be afraid and be worrying about these things, but this is the nature of our job as artists and creators and innovators. Our job is to innovate, create, and all of that is always based on something somebody else has done before us. I don't believe there's such thing as wholly original thought. We are vessels that have been filled with so much information and stimuli that there's no way we can have a thought that isn't somehow, I would love this to have more of a feeling of contemporariness. And this is why we even have adjectives, is they refer to something we've seen before. And so I might be opening a can of worms, but I just feel like this is what we're supposed to do, and I know it hurts. And it's like looking at a bunch of kids, and you're like, this is gonna hurt, this is gonna suck. But change this is your comfort zone. And I always say to my kids, I go, what's this? They go, it's where the magic happens. And I'm like, that's right. This is your comfort zone. This is where the magic happens. When it hurts, that's when you're growing. And I just, there's going to be pain. It sucks for me. I've been through layoffs. But this is what art is about. And I think that's what's super exciting about it. Get hard.
I just want to say, I think you brought up an interesting point. There is a fine line, though. The big issue has always been with AI right now, with the training on others' arts and other people's arts, and that was the big thing.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That is an issue.
That's a problem. So I agree with you about. Okay, this is philosophical discussion we can go on later on the original talk.
Is there, can we have some of that?
But I do think it's really important to have laws in place that you cannot train your models on.
I agree.
That was something we worked on, because then you're generating art, someone else's art, and that's where people are really worried about your today. Because then you can produce a whole movie, you know, saying like, do this shot like, you know, PTA shot in here, or do this and that could be really problematic, because then you're not really doing your homework, right?
I'm just being, I don't mean to be the devil's advocate. Yes, I do. I do know that. I'm gonna be quite
See
honest
why you're
about
sitting in the
that.
middle.
So, but here's the thing. What did you read in school? What taught you all the things that you know about?
It's very different. Machine learning, I get
Is
what you're
it?
saying. It is different, because the way machine learning works.
I just got back from Scotland, so this is thank you all for coming.
That was watered down whiskey.
Now the panel's getting started. I do think reading and training on materials, there's a bit of a misperception. Because if you're training something on a very specific set of data, you're going to produce results that are really backed by data. While you're reading, you have so much data in your head. So you're not going to just produce that. You're going to bring your own history to
I
it.
understand.
So you need diversity in data, and then you need to really prevent people from, you know, using other people.
It is a great argument, and I completely understand.
So
Because
what?
the computer, no, I didn't. You can't win. So, my husband.
I'm used to it. I never win.
Jonathan,
But
do you
anyway.
have
Well,
anything?
so I agree, and I think one of the other dangers of something that's not enough is that you look at what everything is programmed for, and you look at what has dominated media in the previous years. There is a lot of inherent built-in prejudice. So you look at what's being generated by machine learning and AI. They're foresight to be able to guide it in that way. There's people who have all sorts of experiments in terms of, you know, asking Midjourney and platforms to show somebody who's a person with autism, and none of the images show a happy person. 99.9% of them white, and over 95% of them male.
The research is fascinating, and but we have an opportunity to break that, which is
Yes.
what I think being aware of it is the most important thing. And by the way, if you're training on something that does have prejudice and bias, then the prompt goes to how do I change this path? And I think that that's really important too.
So I want to talk a little bit about where a lot of this technology is coming from. Nicola, you touched on it briefly when you talked about Silicon Valley. And having worked in the space a long time, seeing a lot of technology come out of that space, it's for itself. They're trying to generate a return on their investment. And a lot of the technology may or may not be intended for the entertainment industry, but certainly they're not concerned with a lot of the things that we all are talking about. So I would love to get your point of view on how do you see that industry interfacing with ours. Clearly, Nicola, with you took it into your own hands. You're developing your own technology. I mean, you wrote a lot of the code yourself. You're actually on the front line.
It's our team, yeah. I can't take the credit. We have a really, really strong team, about 70 of us right now. But I would disagree with you, I think, on just one part of it. You're right about certain things, but I do think a lot of this technology comes from academia. So these are researchers that have been working on solving certain problems. Now they've never considered it until recently for the film industry. A lot of them worked on solving computer vision problems, right, which is all about teaching, you know, a computer literally how to see and understand robotics, self-driving cars, right? That's what we built on. That's what how we started is we saw, you know, technology from self-driving cars and robotics, and it's all about understanding the world around you know, through the lens of a camera. And film is 24 frames a second, so the more we can teach these models to understand what's happening, we call it scene understanding, the more then we can manipulate. That was inspiration for us. I do think, you know, we're working with MIT, with Berkeley, and we had, you know, one of the researchers at Berkeley, when we first time contacted them for something that we saw it in the film case, They were more developing it for studying human behavior. How do humans act in space, in nature, etc. They never thought of it as a use case for film, right? So I think a lot of this, to be fair, these researchers have been doing this for like 20, 30 years. We stepped in really recently, especially in the past year with industry, making such a noise about it. But these people have been working with this for a long, long time. We have to thank them for certain advantage that we made. So I do think it's important to educate our industry more about it, and how do we build the proper models, and where do we, draw the fine lines of that. And at the end of the day, I think whatever tool we make, you cannot replace an artist, because to me, I do sincerely, I'm a writer myself, I know how difficult it is to write a good script. I don't think we'll be able to innovate to a point that it's just like what happened to YouTube, right? Democratization of distribution happened on YouTube and news, right? Is everything on YouTube good content? Absolutely not. 99.9% is garbage. So, but I think that's exactly going to happen. We're going to see more and more content now, but it's not going to be all great content. It's going to be a lot of bad content, and that's going to give opportunity to people to really come up with quality stories, right? To me, I bet that the big problem we have right now with big films is if you spend 250 million, I always say this, if you spend 250 million on a movie, you need to make 500 to try to break even. Studios cannot risk to make 2001 Space Odyssey today. They just can't, because they need to get an 8-year-old and a 60-year-old to go and watch it and like it, right? I do believe if we use these tools and bring the price down, we can risk more with these stories looking in the future. What's our future going to look like, right? And then we can make it for 5 million, and then we can make an 8.4 story, and be like, okay, I can risk it, because I'm not spending that much money. Look what happened with The Creator. I love what that filmmaker did, right? But now there's this point of like, oh, he only made 100 million, right? So we can't go and risk it again with that genre. We gotta go back to franchise and whatnot, right? So I do really see it. The whole purpose of this, let's bring the price down so we can make better stuff.
Jonathan, you have something you want to say? And
Yeah.
Sorry.
Totally. I mean, and that's so much part of what we're focused on. The less risk factor, the more risk that you have. And right now in marketing, you look at what the studios and the directors are doing, they're spending at least 1-to-1 in terms of what production is on marketing, right? And obviously there's also a lot of mystery and fake accounting that's a part of that, but they are trying to show this thing and connect with as many people as possible so that the greatest number of public will go and watch it.
Quadrant.
Exactly. Whereas if you make something that's specifically designed to connect with a committed and specific audience, and you focus that marketing, which is unfortunate, on that audience and give them the tools to market, promote it, very exciting things from that. You can have that greater level of risk because, aside from companies like A24, movies in that like $1 to $10 million range, they just don't exist right now. And the only people who are able to make those are people that have access to private funding. It's a very small, very specific group of people that have access to that. And so I think, again, the word that we keep coming back to is democratization. And that the more that we can lower what the overall cost is and give people the opportunity to tell a story and to get that story out there, really exciting stuff's going to happen. And on top of it, what you were saying in terms of AI, because there's a lot of fear in the industry right now that AI-generated content is going to replace traditional content. We've had this fear in so many different ways. We have this fear with reality television, we've had this fear with YouTube, we've had this fear with CGI, all of these different things. What it's going to do is it's going to birth a new form of content. Yes, something that is very interactive and very specified to that user, but it's not going to replace the experience of having a shared experiencing of the story, which we love. I love, especially since the pandemic, being able to watch so many movies and so many great TV shows at home. And I still love going to the theater and having that experience. I don't think that's ever going to go away. We just have to figure out how to make it more sustainable.
Sarah, I'm going to give you, because we're getting short on time, I want to get to some Q&A, but what's the last word on this one?
The last word on this is, I feel like AI it's the Wild West. And what's happening is that everybody who's looking to sort of like grab it, like everyone's running for the gold rush. Everybody's running for the gold rush. And they're coming up with the gold and they're making a ton of money selling the gold. But that gold is worth so much more if you put it in the hands of someone who knows what to do with it. and you can create a beautiful setting, you can add gemstones, and you need the creator to make it more than what it is. And what you're seeing with the short content, I think is what we're all saying, is that it's great. So much of it is just bad, but it's just little lumps of gold. They have an opportunity to play, and other people will see that, and that will inspire people. It's the democratization. Democratization takes time. It takes a lot of what's the word I want to say? Dissemination. A lot of time and effort, and to get to that tipping point where everybody's playing with it, using it, like with YouTube. And we've been here before, and I don't think the creator will ever. We can't sustain ourselves in charge of the human. We're humans. All storytelling is about the human condition. Without the human, you can't tell a story. And you can build on gold, but you can't have a gorgeous piece of jewelry.
Otherwise, it's just imitation.
Yeah, it's just a lump of gold.
We have time for just a couple of questions. Does anyone have a burning question they'd like to throw out? Yeah,
Hi there, how are you?
good.
In Congress, they had a closed AI meeting. To me, that's a little bit of a red flag. And
Congress
part
had a
two,
closed AI session.
so it's a little bit of a red flag. Part two is, are you able far enough in AI to figure out with the people in the industry what they would be paid for? I know the strike's part of this, what the residuals are and how to kind of go around that so they're protected with AI where they still get what they believe are their residuals or part of their work, and
So are we at a point where we know how we're going to compensate people fairly?
With
I
the
think
AI.
WGAs, they've got new rates negotiated, but I think SAG-AFTRA's still cranking on it.
It's tough. I mean, so the short answer is no. And
Oh,
the
no,
longer
okay, that's
answer
honest.
is maybe, sort of.
Okay.
I think, when it comes to WGA and the DGA, there's definitely groundwork that's been made. I think the areas where there hasn't been much progress specifically from entertainment is utilizing material to train these machines. So how does that work?
Okay.
And then how do you compensate all of the artists whose material was used to train these machines? And there are copyright rulings that are happening in politics that could affect that, but then these union agreements are going to affect that as well. When it comes to actors and how it pertains to one's physical likeness and voice and all that, I'm as curious as anyone how we're going to work this out. I think that there's a lot that's going to shift and change. And again, it's about how do we utilize this as democratized optimization to prevent as much exploitation as possible. But in this industry, there will always be some form of exploitation, and we are so nascent in where we are right now that there is only so much that we can do to project forward to protect ourselves. And I do think that people are overly panicked trying to find those protections now when we can't fully visualize where we need to protect ourselves. But I think that there's definitely been enough in the negotiations thus far, and hopefully once we have, as soon as possible, a closed SAG and TV deal where there will hopefully be some protections moving forward. But I as an actor, I don't know all the times that AI has maybe been used on my work or to finish work
Okay.
and all of that. When it comes to the changing of the material, that's dicey and that's a little bit scarier, and that's what we're sort of seeing. But I think some of the things that are great tools right now that excite me are also things that scare me. So we'll see.
Eric, I know you got a singer.
Thank
for
you.
us.
That was thank you all. Thank you.
Which future do you prefer one in which someone is selling a license to their likeness or having the creator just simply
Repeat that for everybody.
Yeah, so the question is, do I prefer, selling, like having the power to sell one's likeness, or just having that creator that is creating, doing all kinds of work?
yeah, creating
I mean, listen, so right now you can go on Instagram and you can follow alter egos of Kendall Jenner, Tom Brady, and a host of other stars. You can message and interact with them, and it is responding as if it is that person for advice or whatever it might be. And these are people that have signed away and trained these programs to be able to do that. That is sure, in one sense, wow, what an exciting addition to the industry, and also completely terrifying in terms of how it could impact the psychology of the people that are fans. You know, I think that protecting the psychology of the entertainment and audience relationship is something that is already challenging. You know, so let's see how we move through that. But I'm definitely open to finding ways that, you know, there can be a greater expansion of work from it. You know, I don't know. I think it's hard to pick. You know, one or the other. Yeah.
So as
Whatever SAG decides is best for you.
whatever helps pay the mortgage. So we're going to wrap up, and I just wanted to end with a quote that actually Sarah helped me craft. I think it really encapsulates all of our points of view, including mine, which is that AI can be a powerful tool for creators, but for filmmakers, writers, and artists, it should always drive the creative process. The human condition has always been at the core of storytelling, and while machine learning can reduce costs and increase accessibility, it uses data and algorithms to imitate us, to imitate our stories. If we are to continue to tell stories that resonate with the human race, it is critical that the driving force in the creative process be human imitation. With that, thank you very much for coming out today. Thank you for